Hey there, it's Claude Larson, and just want to talk to you today about one of the ways that I finish my art quilts. And what I like is, and a lot of times, is a nice clean finish where, it's not a traditional quilt, so I don't like to put a border around it, or sashing as it's called in the quilt world. Not really my thing. I like a nice clean edge finish, as if it were the end of a canvas, the edge of a painting. And that way, sometimes when I mat and frame these, it just has a more professional look. So it's called a facing finish. So if you sew clothing, you'll know, like sewing a facing, sometimes like underneath the collar, under the underarm, if you have something sleeveless or whatever. But this is how I have adapted it for my art quilts, because I want the neat finish, but I don't want bulky corners. So I have one here, and it's a little hard because I decided to just use some white fabric to finish this. So it's white on white, but I'm going to go through the process, and I think it'll be easy enough to understand. So the first thing I do is on the right side, I stitch a 1/4 inch, turn it over, and this is the back side. So now I'm doing the ends. Here's the sashing. I generally, for a nice small piece like this, I think I cut this 1 3/4 inches. These were already cut. They were just on one of my side tables. These, I believe, they look like 2 inches to me. So 1 3/4, 2 inches, not a whole lot of difference there, really. I've sewn them on at a 1/4 inch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this, nice hot iron, get a nice clean edge. And obviously, top and bottom, these are my last 2 sides on this quilt. And once I show you how you finish this, you'll understand how the first 2 sides get finished. So, right, iron, easy peasy. All right. And the next step, after I've ironed this, is I've stitched this probably like 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. All right. That way, when I turn this to face the back, right, it will hold this in place. Now, this is the important part. I go in here, I don't cut this strip that I have attached, but I go in here on the quilt, I take very sharp scissors, and I cut the 1/4 inch seam allowance away. So that has been removed. It takes away the bulk, all my stitching still intact, and I'm going to do that for all 4 corners. I use some nice sharp scissors. These are bent handled scissors. They happen to be handy, so I grabbed them. They're also very sharp. And, you know, as long as you have sharp pointy scissors, they will do the job. Maybe I need something a little meatier for this one. This is actually, the top of this was an old, like a vintage table napkin that I got at like a yard sale or something, and then I hand dyed it. So you see the corner, the part that has been turned over, the corner has been cut away, right? So I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, I've got all 4 corner seam allowances removed, stitching done. I have it face down. I'm going to take this strip and I'm going to fold it just to the edge of the quilted part of this. So this is thicker, right? It's got batting and backing and all that. This is going to be thinner, and I'm going to press this just to the edge. I don't want it to overlap. I know the quilt police might come and get me on this one. There are people who say there's only one way to do things. I'm not one of those people. This is how I do it. I found I like this way. It reduces bulk. It gives me the finish that I want. So I press it just to the edge, and then I fold it over. I fold it over so that there is just enough of the front fabric facing, again, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, right? Maybe less. And then I pin in the center. I cut my corners so that there's, I don't know, a half inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. So, you know, maybe 1.5 centimeters for those of you who are in the metric system. I fold this in on an angle, and then I fold this over, and a pin to hold it. This is how I will, this is how I will do my final stitching. So I'm going to show you that again. Here I am. I'm holding the center in place. It makes it a lot easier than trying to wrestle the corners without having the center intact. Flip this over. Put a pin in there. Other side. Flip it over. Flip it into here. Again, it's at an angle so that when I do finally flip this over, it's going to angle in, and it won't stick out the side edge of the quilt. So I'm pushing that in. Maybe my 16th of an inch is showing, a couple millimeters. Put some pins in there. And give it a final press. Look at the front, make sure my white isn't showing, because I don't want my band to show. I just want the front to have a clean finish. And then I'm going to hand stitch this. Let me probably see it better on here. You can see a nice little hand stitch. Stays in place. Now this one I used leftover fabric from the bottom, leftover fabric from the top, just to match the color up. But honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you're careful enough, then those strips aren't going to show anyway. All right, that is how I finish my art quilts. And I've got one more side to do, but this one's just about ready. A couple buttons and it'll be good. All right, I hope this was helpful. Again, if you are concerned about what quilt police might say, you might leave your corners alone. But I find that by getting rid of this extra bulk, I don't end up with corners that pop out when I'm trying to mat and frame these. If you're going to hang them on a wall, it might not be as big a deal, but if you like a more finished, clean look, this is just one tip from me. All right. Hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.